You're watching TVC Breakfast. Let's now move on to other areas of discussion. Millions of residents in Lagos State either use private or commercial vehicles to go about their businesses, but because of the constant traffic on the major roads, many opt for motorcycles as an easy and faster means of transportation. Although motorbikes help to constantly beat traffic, the crimes committed using these bikes have continuously endangered the lives of residents and caused havoc in the society. Because of its small size and fast nature, the number of pickpockets, thefts and armed robberies have increased. The Lagos State government has now banned motorcycles on some major highways. It recently added 6 local government areas to its list, and this directive is one that has become controversial with many people for and against the ban. Joining me now to discuss this ban and how to tackle the motorbike menace in Lagos is the Commissioner of Police, Lagos State Command. Thank you so much for joining us, CP Biodun Alabi. Let's begin with you telling us, for the avoidance of doubt, the scope of your plan to enforce this total ban in the affected areas. CP Alabi.
Thank you.
Please carry on. What's the scope of your plan to enforce the ban in these affected areas?
Well, we are trying to put in place some strategies on how to enforce the law. You recall that we had a meeting with the governor last week, and about 6 local governments, Etiosa local governments, Sanwo-Olu local governments, Apapa, Ikeja, Lagos Island and Lagos Mainland were declared to be the areas where total ban will take place. And so we are trying to see how we can enforce these laws by putting up some strategies. Like I said before, the law has been there, but the intensity of enforcement is what has not been done. So this time around, what we realized initially was that because of the fact that there was no total ban, people that were applying the areas that were not restricted, used the opportunity to apply the areas that were restricted. So this time down that there's going to be a total ban, it will be easier for us to enforce the law completely.
Does the police have what it takes to effect this enforcement?
Yes, we have what it takes to enforce the law, because it's not going to be the police alone that will enforce the law. It's going to be a kind of a combined effort, a kind of collaboration, with other security agencies to ensure that the law is enforced to the letter. We are going to work in synergy with other security agencies. We are going to work in synergy with the other agencies of the government that will assist the police in enforcement of this law.
CP Biodun Alabi, on Monday, the Arawa community were reported to have expressed their stance on the total ban as announced by Governor Sanwo-Olu. Now they say they've embraced this directive and have, given the go-ahead, so to speak, to the police to arrest anyone from its ranks that disobeys the order. What's your reaction to this?
Well, my reaction to that is a welcome development, because I think some of them too are affected with the menace of these motorcyclists called Okada riders. I'm very sure that maybe some of them are victims of these Okada riders too, and they know it's a kind of a decision that is taken for the interest of the entire society. They belong to the society, and they know that they are as part of residents in Lagos, they are directly or indirectly affected by the menace of Okada riders too. So I think the reason why they supported the government decision is because of the outcry and a lot of problems that these motorcyclists have been creating, and so I think it's a welcome development to me and to the Nigerian Police Force in Lagos.
Let's look at the impact now of this total ban, especially in these areas for a start, before the government, it says it will spread out its tentacles elsewhere. Looking at the fear of increased crime rate in and around these areas, what do you say to that?
I don't agree that there's an increase in the crime rate in those areas. But what I think you are trying to tell me is that there could be a kind of increase in crime rate if there's a complete or total ban in those local governments, which we are preparing for. We are not mindful of the fact that definitely when those Okada people are not applying the rules again, it's going to be difficult for them to make a living in a way, except they try to get themselves engaged in other vocational work. But then some of them might want to take to crime and maybe to make a living. But we are already preparing for that. We are prepared to contend with those challenges. Definitely, we are going to put up a lot of strategies to contend with that.
Well, specifically, there's the issue of, from experiences, which seems to be increasing daily, there are issues of highway robberies, people in their cars, even in their vehicles, where they think they are fully secure. Thugs from nowhere suddenly spring up and, attack, rob, sometimes maiming. What is the police doing about that, especially in these, as we inch closer to the June the first deadline?
We are doing a lot about that. We are aware that traffic robbery do occur at the peak period where there is a traffic congestion. We have been able to identify the areas, even but the areas that we are anticipating that might likely take place. We are deploying our arsenals, we are deploying our operatives to work with other people who always give us intelligence and information about this traffic robbery. The Labour Safety Agency is doing well in that regard. We got a lot of intelligence from them, we got a lot of information from them. And through there, we have been able to identify these blind spots, and we have been able to deploy our operatives. You will agree with me that it has not been like before again. It used to be common, but then we do have some isolated cases here and there, but it's no more as it used to be. So we are contending with it, and we are poised to eradicate it completely in Lagos.
CP Alabi, there's also still complaints of extortion leveled at your officers. How are you tackling this recurring problem?
Yeah, we have had instances where some of our colleagues, junior officers, are found extorting money from motorists or civilians on the road, and it goes viral. But I can assure you that those ones have been arrested, and we are using our internal mechanism, departmentally, to deal with that situation. We have a way of dealing with anybody who is involved in any unethical behavior or non-professional behavior. So we are tackling it to deter others from doing the same thing. will not spare anybody. Under my watch, I've always said that under my command and watch, no police officer that engages in unprofessional or unethical conduct and any corrupt practices will be spared. So those ones who are involved in that kind of unethical behavior have been arrested, and they are undergoing internal disciplinary measures.
CP Biodun Alabi would like to put you on hold at this time so we can allow for a commercial break. We'll be back to continue a conversation with you. Stay with us for more on TVC Breakfast. Thanks a lot for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. We continue our conversation now with the Commissioner of Police, Lagos Command, Biodun Alabi. Thank you so much, CP Alabi, for hanging on with us on the program TVC Breakfast. You said earlier before the break that the Lagos Command is doing a lot to curb the issue of extortion. But when we look at generally the complaints that members of the public may have against police officers generally, what is the line that the public is supposed to toe? How do they go about, placing their complaints and expecting prompt and positive feedback?
Well, we have put in place some platform that they can actually complain to the police. We have a complaint response units that they can utilize and report the conduct of any police officer or any police officer who is involved in any unethical conduct. I think they can utilize that. Then the office of the PRO is there, public relations officer. There's a creation of a public complaint bureau at the state headquarters, manned by that's the police public relations officer who is in charge of that office. They can let their complaint to him or even complain to me directly. But what we normally expect them to do is to have enough evidence to establish that extortion or corrupt practices against any of our officers. And you can be rest assured that we'll deal with it decisively without sparing anybody who is found wanting.
And on the flip side, as CP Alabi, the police, like you must have observed, is also, having a tough time, so to speak, dealing with reports of attack on its officers. And we all recall the horrors of the post-EndSARS protests in 2020, how, there were so many, appalling images of police officers being attacked, police stations being attacked. Have we really moved on? Has the police force really healed? What are you doing to protect the lives of your officers?
Well, we are doing a lot to do that. I mean, we are doing a lot with regards to that. We are aware that the reason why most police officers did not react according to the laws or to save their lives during that period was because of the fact that the police was at the center of one of, I mean, what we call NSAS, that is police brutality. So that discouraged a lot of police officers from really reacting the way they're supposed to react, because they are not supposed to be attacked by anybody, and why folding their arms? They have the right to defend their lives, they have the right to defend the lives of others. But because of the fact that they were at the hotspots, in terms of police brutality during the NSAS period, many of them, shaking out or became really livid, so they didn't react the way they're supposed to react. And they have been told, their confidence has been built, and then they have been told to, that confidence has been restored back to them that, look, you cannot continue to look while somebody is attacking you. You have the right to defend yourself. And that's one of those areas, one of the things that we have been able to imbue in them, that please work in conformity with the laws. You have the laws that guide you to react to anybody attacking you or attacking your facilities. So it's not going to be business as usual. We will not fold our arms while people are attacking our officers and men, or while people are destroying our properties again. So anybody who is engaged in that will be decisively, dealt with, and we will react accordingly in conformity with the laws of the land.
There is still the concern about the ability of the police in Lagos State to adequately respond to issues or cases of alarm, and a very present or a ready example was the jungle justice that was served on instrumentalist Dave on the island, and everyone knows what happened, but there are reports that the police may not have attended to the cries for help that could have saved the lives of Dave. What are you doing in this regard, especially to get justice for the life of the late Dave?
Well, the response of the police officers on that day was very swift. If not for the response of the police officers, I can assure you that we will have had more casualties than one. Like I always tell people, police cannot be everywhere. We are not omnipresent. We are not ubiquitous. If you remember, one of the problems we are facing is the problem of manpower. We don't have enough manpower to deal decisively, with some of these issues happening in the community. But then we are utilizing the ones we have to respond swiftly. And our rapid response unit has been strengthened to complement the efforts of the divisions and the area commands in responding to any distress call. So we do respond actively and promptly to any distress call, and we have actually improved on our response time, unlike before. You recall that on that day, the DPO Morocco personally led a team and responded to that the ugly incident, where 4 people were arrested on the spot. And those people are seen as, we are still investigating the case, and other people have been arrested who are at the scene, found to have committed the crime too. So we are having about 7 of them in our custody, including the person who actually poured petrol on the late victim. So we are doing a lot to ensure that justice is served to the late, sound engineer. I will not relent on our words to continue to respond to any distress, but by and large, we are trying to prevent. We are trying to put in place a lot of preventive measures so that kind of ugliness will not reoccur again in Lagos State.
What about the issue of cultism, CP Alabi? Where are we now, on this menace, as it rightly has been called?
Yeah, it's one of the security challenges we are having in Lagos State. And we are really dealing with them because we are not allowing it to fester the way it used to fester before. We have arrested a lot of them in so many places. Cultism, I think at times, what always causes because of supremacy, among the court groups. One trying to establish supremacy over the other, and that results to a kind of fight that may likely lead to killing of one of the cultists and reprisal attacks. So we have been dealing with them, and we have been arrested. We have arrested a lot of them. I can assure you that we continue to contend with it. Beyond that, too, we are trying to create awareness and sensitization by having a kind of stakeholders meeting in various communities and town hall meetings in various communities, trying to let people know that cultism is criminal. It's not only a social behavior, but it's criminal in nature. So anybody who is found or anybody who is caught, involved in cultism will be sanctioned and dealt with according to the law. So we are really doing a lot about fighting cultism in Lagos. We have arrested a lot of them, and a lot of them have been charged to court.
And talking about engagement, it brings us back to the very big issue of how the police will enforce the total ban in the said areas. What's the level of engagement with critical members of the public, the bike associations, and other stakeholders?
Well, we have directed my area commanders and the DPOs to have meetings with the executive members of motorcycle riders in their various divisions and area commands. And this consultation, I believe, will sensitize the motorbike riders or Okada riders to enable them know that there is a law in place now that, disallow them from plying roads in those areas that are marked to be, I'm talking about the areas where the total ban is going to be enforced. In doing that, the awareness and sensitization, I think, will go a long way to reduce the kind of tension between the motorcyclists and the police officers. But like I said, the law is the law. So if anybody who is aware that law has been in place, banning Okada ride, in all these areas, are still flouting the laws by riding the Okada, the police has no choice than to enforce the laws and arrest the person and prosecute him accordingly.
The Lagos Command has also announced ahead of June the 1st that not only will riders who ply this prohibited routes be prosecuted, passengers who board the bikes would also be caught by the police. What's the process going to be like? Are they indeed going to be prosecuted? Are we looking at options of fines? What punitive measures are really in place now to carry out this order as said?
The passengers also are, involved in if the law is there, don't ply these roads. The Okada riders are completely banned from applying these roads in these local governments. The ignorance of law is no excuse to anybody. Anybody who climbs Okada that is plying this, plying roads in these areas where they have been banned is as guilty as is as good as somebody who has committed the offense of plying the roads. We are even seeing them as a kind of somebody encouraging the Okada riders to flout the laws, because the law is there that they have been banned. So why will you now go and seek their assistance to ply the road that has been prohibited from Okada riders plying? So it's as good as you to commit the same offense the person who is riding the Okada has committed. So the two of them are as good as the two of them will be arrested as people that have really flouted the law, and then they'll be made to face the law accordingly.
When you say accordingly, CP, so what happens upon the arrest of both passenger and rider? And what happens to the bikes too?
Well, the bike will be confiscated and the two of them arrested will be charged to court accordingly, according to the law. We have 2018 transport sector reform laws that takes care of that.
So beyond these areas, as CP, beyond these prohibited areas, there is also a bit of confusion as to whether or what happens to the other highways outside of the 6 local government areas and the LCDAs in between. Lasu-Iba Expressway, the Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway, where bikes are notorious to be plying. And understandably, if you weigh the argument on the other side that these roads are not even in good condition, what happens to the level of enforcement of the 2018 traffic law in Lagos State outside these 6 local governments?
We are still enforcing laws in those areas. All the highways, all the bridges are prohibited areas for Okadas from plying. So if they ply highways or all those bridges, it is as good as they are committing. I mean, they are going against the traffic laws. So we are enforcing it. We are not limiting our activities or enforcement to this local government where there's a completely ban. Other areas, other local governments where some areas have been identified to be prohibited areas or restrictive areas like highways and bridges, we are actually enforcing laws and arresting them. We are doing that. If you recall, last week we had a problem with some Okada riders along the Badagry Expressway. We arrested almost about 215 bikes were confiscated and 35 of them were arrested. So it's not only the 6 local governments alone. Other areas that have been identified, like expressway, highways, and bridges, where these people are applying this Okada and they are still following the traffic laws. We are always after them and we are arresting them and they try to prosecute them according to the laws.
Lastly, what is your message to Lagos residents at this time, especially in the light of safety concerns?
Well, my message to Lagosians or Lagos residents at this time is that we continue to do our best to serve them and make sure that Lagos is safer and secured, where everybody will go about their lawful businesses without any fear or any molestation or harassment. And I want to use this opportunity to thank the Lagos State government for the provision of a state-of-art equipment that has actually enhanced the capacity and the capability of Lagos State officers and men in doing their job. And equally, I want to acknowledge the resilience, the dedication, and the commitment of all officers and men of Lagos State Police Command, who have been doing their best to ensure that Lagos is safe and secured for the residents and the Lagosians to go about their lawful businesses. So my message is that they should continue to have confidence in us, they should continue to believe in us, that we continue to do our best to serve them better. And partner with us, in terms of information and intelligence sharing. The police cannot do the work alone. We continue to solicit for the support of the members of the public to partner with us, and that's the reason why we keep on engaging the members of the community, to assist us in information and intelligence to enable us nip all crimes at the bud before they are committed.
Commissioner of Police Lagos Command Biodun Alabi, we thank you very much for your contributions on TVC Breakfast this morning.